This is a poem by, it's an extract by Tim O'Brien, and in this extract we see Tim's thoughts after the first time he kills a person, as well as a few words of encouragement from Kiowa. So for this commentary, I'm going to focus on the main passage, which was that Tim felt guilt associated with killing the man. First, I'll discuss how the author uses a parallel structure, and then I'm going to discuss how he uses dainty imagery, and lastly, I'll examine the use of contrast between mother and father and the internal feelings versus the outward display. And then I'm going to discuss how he uses the word would in order to notify to the audience that this following situation will be like hypothetical or like theoretical, like it's not real. And then I will be examining the diction he uses at the end, for which was regarding the man's attitude towards the war. So in the beginning of the poem, in the extract, O'Brien uses the parallel structure. He mentions when basically dreaming about the man, he always begins the sentence with he. He imagined covering his head. He had no stomach for violence. He loved mathematics. His eyebrows were thin. He often wanted to, but he was afraid. So it's emphasizing the man, right, that Tim killed, and how Tim can't stop thinking about the man, right? And as the passage progresses, Tim also uses feminine imagery in order to describe how the man looked, right? So then he says his eyebrows were thin and arched like a woman's, and kids on the school sometimes mimicked his woman's walk, and how he had like love for mathematics. So he's giving this image of a man who's not very masculine, and this man, he doesn't want to go to war, basically. And it makes the audience wonder, why does this man want to go to war if he's so like not built for war? Then through the use of I guess you can say shameful or guilt for like diction, he describes the man's attitude towards the war. For example, if he often wanted to, but he was afraid, and this increased his shame. So he was afraid of, like, basically saying he was afraid of fighting, and this like it made him even like more shameful. And at the end it says, and beyond anything else, he was afraid of disgracing himself and therefore his family and village. So it lets you know that what is the primary motive of this young feminine man going to war. Why he's doing it in order to avoid disgrace. Also, it uses contrast between like the mother and the father, and the internal and external, like how he felt between these two like how he presented himself in these two situations, like such as in the presence of his father and uncles, he pretended to look forward to doing his patriotic duty, which was also a privilege. So he's using the word privilege and patriotic duty as though the man wants to do it. He's presenting himself as eager to go to war, when in reality, okay, and I'm going to read the next part of it, but at night he prayed with his mother that the war might end soon. So this is what would actually happen internally. This is like what was basically going on in his heart. Tim is basically letting you know that this man did not want to go to war just for the sake of killing, but he didn't want to fight, right? And the only reason that he's fighting is he's afraid of disgrace. Like if he didn't go to war, everyone he would be shunned, right? Okay, so but did Tim actually know that this man did all these things, that he loved mathematics, and that he used to pray with his mom at night? No. This diction lets us know that this is all a hypothetical situation. Okay, it says frail looking, delicately boned, in order to describe the man. The young man would not have wanted to be a soldier. Okay, it says the word would. So it's informing the audience that this coming passage or whatever is about to be said over here is a hypothetical situation, that this never actually happened. So what's the purpose of this? The purpose of this is Tim is basically dreaming what this man would have been. He's giving himself a worst case scenario. Like in the beginning, it says the guy wasn't Heidi. He had a weapon, right? But Tim is doing exactly that. He's thinking the man is basically a Heidi. He's thinking the man is basically a Heidi. That he was innocent. He didn't want to go to war. He was very feminine. He's giving himself the worst case scenario. Also, Tim uses hyperbole in order to describe how the man detested war. So it says he imagined covering his head and lying in a deep hole and closing his eyes and not moving until the war was over. In reality, this can't happen. You can't close your eyes and not move until an entire war is over. But then he says this in order to show how much the man, like, he hated war. And then the next sentence goes on and confirms this, and it says he had no stomach for violence, which was this is basically an idiom, which means like he can't stand violence. And then the next sentence it contrasts with the first one. It says what he loved instead. And then at the end, it also talks about in the presence of his father and uncles, he pretended to look forward to doing his patriarch duty, which was also a privilege. I know I mentioned this earlier, but this time I'm going to look at the contrast between father and mother. Father, it's seen as the person who needs to be impressed, like the chief, right? He is your outward appearance, whereas the mother is what would actually she's the one inside of the house. She's the one who like you confide with, kind of like your security, right? So when he's has this kind of dichotomic state where outward he wants to portray, the man wants to portray himself as someone who's tough and he doesn't want to be shamed, and then inward he's actually very scared of the war. And Tim uses all of these literary devices in order to show how the man, he did not want to go to war, and how he was like almost kind of like civilian, like he didn't really deserve to die after Tim killed him. So Tim kind of develops this sense of pity for him, which adds on to the fact that Tim felt guilt, which was associated with killing the man. So then at the end, Kiowa kind of rubs it in and he says, "Listen to me." Kiowa said, "You feel terrible, I know that." And then he said, "Okay, maybe I don't know." And Kiowa says this in order to almost like to rub it in, I guess you can say, that Tim will have to deal with this emotion that he killed a man for the rest of his life. Thank you.